Are doing well. We are going to try to join City Council in their conversation about drug laws here. So let me try to get this fired up here really quick. Whew, it has been a day, y'all. It has been a day. Try to get this link here. Man, hope you all are doing well. Think you get to a certain point and you're like, my brain does not work anymore. Let me get in here. Where is this link at? Sent it to myself twice here. 6:26 p.m. Let's see. There we go. All right. See if we can get in here with these guys. Oh, good. Looks like we got 2 minutes here to get ourselves together. So that is good for us. That's awesome. Okay. We also have another show at 8. So it looks like I am back to back to back to back to back. Yeah. Man. But you know what? I'm built for tough. We're going to get it together. All right. Let's go ahead and get rid of that. We're going to get rid of that. And we're going to get rid of that too. And let's see. Hey, how you doing? It is a night there, sir. Got a lot going on February 8th, which happens to be G2's birthday. Give it up for G2. You know. So we'll be on shortly, just in like probably about 60 seconds. They should be starting here. All right. Let's see. So they should be reconvening here any second now. Look at that. So this is definitely an important discussion this evening. Well, I guess not. This is the only way to do it, right? There's one way, and this is the way. Oh, you see what I did there? This is the way. I tickle myself. All right, where is that piece? Here we go. Okay. Just gonna hit that one time. All right. And we could probably go ahead and add this on here.
Denise, if you can still hear us, can you put that in chat?
Let me know if you can hear that. Rob, put a 1 in the chat if you can hear.
Just curious if we've lost audio.
Councilman Jeff. They have lost their audio and their video, so they're working on it on their end right now.
I see Christy Lyson. Christy, can you raise and lower your hand if you can still hear us? Okay, so yeah, I think thank you for that,
Recording in progress.
Okay.
There's
Back.
Councilwoman Fry.
A meeting, for any folks watching, we're having some video difficulties from the
Recording in progress.
Chambers video system.
There's Councilwoman
That
Fry.
video should still be working and recording. So, can I just ask you to raise your hand if you can still hear us? Okay, I see that. Perfect. Good. Okay, so we'll continue on with item A7. City Attorney Kylie Snell is here to present ordinance adding chapter 9.90 of the Fairmont Municipal Code entitled Quote Controlled Substances.
Thank you. So this is an item that came out of the council retreat, and that I was asked, sorry, with bringing to the study session. And so at the retreat, it showed up on the agenda to discuss Marysville ordinance and discussion. Some of the consensus to get an ordinance together, and so that's what happened.
Sorry, guys, that is on their end.
Marysville was not the first city in Washington to enact this. They just maybe got closer to this. But Kent had actually done it a few months before. I reached out to their city attorneys, and these aren't, they, you know, this is the numbers that they gave me without really digging into their but Marysville had about, I think, 39 referrals in the first month, and Kent had 17 since September. So a difference there, of course. And otherwise, I'm happy to answer questions, but what it was prepared was based on Marysville ordinance, which is what you guys asked for. So there it is.
Perfect. Yeah, and I think I'll summarize. There was just an interest in council in getting the facts on the table and learning more about this and us getting up to speed.
Yeah, and it's obviously
on
going
the
to have an
subject.
impact on police, prosecution, and courts. And so, Court Administrator Johnson still present. Chief Wolf was at Public Safety and shared some of his thoughts with the council members that were there. And with prosecution, you know, we're kind of in the middle of those two, right? Because it comes from the police to us. And so it's hard, I think, going to be hard to gauge like exactly how many referrals or how many arrests or whatever you would say would be generated if this was passed. The considerations, of course, are that there's going to be legislation at the state level coming out probably too. The Blake fix that we're currently operating under controlled substance law at the state level expires in July. I believe the last time I checked with AWC, there were 3 bills that have been introduced. But who knows? Maybe you guys will find out next week which ones are the front runners or whatnot. So I'm happy to answer any questions, whatever. Get more information or take direction from you, however you want to go with this.
Perfect. No, thank you so much, Attorney Fennell. Let's go to Jennifer first, since I know you chaired the Public Safety Committee meeting last week.
Yes, although I am now the vice chair, and our wonderful chair is Denise Fry now, but she will be at the next one, but she wasn't able to make it to this one. And so just some things for us to consider. I feel like you probably know my personal opinion about it, but of course, you know, we're a group. So I'm just going to kind of summarize some things from our Public Safety Committee that we discussed on this issue. One, when we talked to Chief Wolf, he asked Ms. Johnson about would we be overwhelming you with this? And I'm going to let her speak for herself on that issue. And so I just would like to hear your comments on the capacity, since we have a brand new behavioral court program. We have 2 people maybe that have been in it so far. If this were to become code, how would that impact the court system?
Well, just with the conversation that we had with the chief last week in regards to the amount of contacts, I mean, 500 contacts and in talking to them, it didn't sound like those were just contacts of, hey, how are you doing? It was an actual, something was happening at that time. That's a huge impact for the court. And so I guess our request would be, if you are planning on going down this road, please think about us as we are going to need some type of help to be able to bring staff on board. And that takes time. We can work as fast as we can, but those are the things that we have to think about. And if that's going to add additional court time, I can't imagine that it wouldn't. Even if you had an additional 100 cases get added a year, that's court time. That's clerk time. Those are things that I would ask that the council think about if you are planning on moving forward. And so we would definitely be coming back to you and asking for additional resources to cover that. So please.
And I think Chief Wolf brought up, and I'll let him speak for himself next week if he attends, but he brought up just a valid point that he feels like it's almost like putting it on the municipality is almost like an unfunded mandate,
Yes.
but unofficially,
Yes.
so that that the state needs to pay for this. The state needs to provide the funding, and once they have the legislation in place, the hope is that funding would accompany that or opportunities for additional funding to provide those support services. I'll let him speak for himself next week if he comes. So what I appreciated too about that meeting is that Ms. Fennell wanted to do additional outreach. And one of the organizations that you talked about was Kitsap County Drug Court Alumni. And I do have a person that we can connect with for that to get feedback from that group. I think that that's a very relevant group thank you very much, Ms. Johnson. That's a very relevant group that we should be getting feedback from because they're people who have participated in the diversion program, people directly impacted by drug laws, right? And then also, I don't know the mechanism that we would use other than public comment to get feedback from business owners and residents. Do we have an idea for that, or would we just use the public comment as a mechanism in our meeting?
However you guys want to do it, it's up to you. So the suggestion that I had was, though, since it is a criminal law, and I think we should really do this on all of them, is that when we're passing new code, that we share it with the local bar association so that they can have comments on it that might even head off in some circumstances if someone thinks that it is preempted or unconstitutional or something like that. I don't see that issue, but some people might. Lawyers sometimes just type away and get all kinds of stuff. And then also in this one, like you said, I thought that the Drug Court Alumni Association was good, but I didn't want to do that yet because we don't accept comments here anyway. And I also wasn't even sure if it would leave this meeting. I don't know what you guys are doing. So I think you send, what I would probably do is send a link to our packet, and if it gets included for a council packet like this ordinance, it'll have the same agenda bell, it'll have this ordinance, and then instead of going just through our regular distributions, then I would probably just work with Lori to send it to maybe like add some emails to that list for this item.
And another consideration too, as we decide if we want to move this forward, is the idea that, and I want you to talk to Chief Wolf once again about this, but the idea of training and then retraining a new policy. So if the state is going to have a fix for a Blake fix by the end of session, then, and we have a code in place that the police are currently being trained on, they'll have to be retrained again. And we know how labor intensive that can be sometimes, how information flowing through, and then you're changing the information, how that can create a source of frustration. That's all that I want to comment on that. I'm going to go ahead and defer to my colleagues for the rest of the time.
I think all of these comments by Vice President Chamberlain are well taken, and we should be determining what we need to be doing as a community. We obviously have a very big drug problem, we have a poverty problem, we have a housing problem, we have a mental health crisis in this country, and they're all very much linked. And Administrator Johnson, I think you're absolutely correct that we shouldn't be sending an unfunded mandate to the court's way. We should be thinking about it holistically. My main question is, one, I know that code ultimately gets interpreted by the courts who have the final say on the interpretive aspect of it, but there's also discretion. There's police officer discretion, there's prosecutorial discretion. So, Attorney Fennell, can you tell me on subsection B, when it's defining terms and it says use, use means any effort taken into furtherance of an attempt to inject, ingest, inhale, and otherwise introduce a controlled substance into the human body. The way I read this, and I would assume a court would interpret this, and I would assume police officers and prosecutors would interpret this, is that it's actually the act of introducing the substance into the body, differentiated from being in public under the influence of the controlled.
Here, if that isn't clear to everyone.
Can you repeat that
Yeah.
for the microphone?
It is absolutely the act. It's not, this is not possession. Possession would be preempted. And
Or under the influence, right? If they no longer possess, it's actually in their body.
right, no, this is with the situation I think that Chief Wolf discussed. He shared something that happened when he was on bike patrol, and that was coming upon someone who had a needle in their arm, and like had a conversation like while they were injecting themselves with a controlled substance, and that, you know, that is alarming to people and to see that in public, and they often call the police, and they currently really don't. That's actually, there's nothing that really prohibits that. It is something under our state law. You can, if they have, you know, you could give them a pamphlet or that, you know, that contact under possession. Because obviously, if you're using, you're also possessing. But if you're possessing, you're not necessarily using. Does that make sense? Okay.
Thank you. And then my next question is, you know, as we wait for the state legislature to respond to the court's decisions, you know, I think it's important that cities take their own actions to figure it out. I think I said this in study session, just like states are laboratories of democracy for the federal government, I think cities can be laboratories of democracy for the state government to figure out what works to fix public policy problems. Would we just be able, if we did move as a body and felt that we needed to, you know, move forward with this to address some of the issues that we've been seeing in our community, it would be fine for us to change the effective date from 10 days to 6 months from now, right? If we needed to delay to figure out, you know, how we would be funding it, how we would be, how the state legislature would be taking off, we can delay its
Yes,
implementation.
you can write into the ordinance a later effective date.
Thank you so much. That's all.
Well, I can no longer hear you, but can you hear me? Okay, all right. I was initially pretty supportive of this, as you may remember at study session, but I didn't understand how it had been brought up. I had assumed mistakenly that it had come through Chief Wolf or you know, the city attorney. And for all the reasons that have been discussed since then and tonight, yeah, I'd really hate to see this go any further right now with the state really working on this. If we wanted to, I know there was interest in advocating for legislation earlier. Could we, would it be possible for us to analyze the legislation that's in there now and see if we can support it?
All right, let's see this. There we go. I think we had one mic battery die, so apologies, Denise. So I might suggest maybe we can, as a council, flesh out the facts of what we have before us and kind of ask questions on that, and then I can lead a discussion at the end of how we want to move this forward with a couple options we have. I'm sorry, whether or not to move it forward, and if we do, in what manner, I should say. Okay. I'd appreciate it.
I just wanted to clarify with everybody, because I'm not there with you, that you know, whatever support I had shown earlier, I was not feeling so supportive anymore.
Appreciate that. Eric.
Several points I'd like to bring up. One is I may have been the instigator of this. I don't know if anyone else had this on their agenda for the council retreat, but I did. And I was struck by the news report. I think it was on Como, Marysville. In particular, a police officer who expressed how grateful he was to have this tool in Marysville because the current system is broken. You can go up to someone that is injecting morphine, or unbeknownst to them, they're injecting morphine laced with fentanyl and killing themselves, and he's standing there helpless because he can't do anything other than saying, hey, by the way, you know, there's a program for you if you want it. And this actually gave him a tool to be able to cite him and say, now you got to, and as Chief Wolf said, and I don't know what the exact statistic was, but the Navigator program had something like 550 referrals and one person took them up on it. These people are dying, and your inaction, our inaction has the side effect of killing people when we should be trying to push them into the system, and I don't care what it costs. We should be helping these people out. And until we got handcuffed by this judicial decision, I do not have confidence that our legislature is going to pick from various things. They may do nothing, and then we still have people dying. So I really think we need to send a message to the legislature that this is what works, this is what we're doing, and we need a state law to make this uniform across the state. This is frustrating to me. The way I read this, drinking alcohol in a park is against the law. Smoking marijuana, even though that's a legal drug under the state law, smoking marijuana in a park is against the law. So the officer has the discretion. And this is merely gives you discretion, doesn't mean it's automatic. Officer, you know what, if the court is overburdened with cases, the police force can say, okay, hey, you got to hold back on writing these tickets because they're overloaded with cases. So right now you can write a ticket for open container drinking, I should say, not just, and smoking marijuana, but shooting whatever, doing crack cocaine, whatever is okay. Really? No, I can't, no. The answer is no, it's not okay.
Michael.
So I wasn't privy to the opening of this topic, but it was illegal, right? Like pre-Blake decision. Okay, so the part of it is the referral, right? But it was illegal before, so it's to me almost seems like a housekeeping thing. We had something that was illegal that we thought should have been illegal, that was no longer. Go ahead.
I just wanted to point out one issue. So prior to Blake, use always encompassed possession, right? That's what I was just saying. Those were felonies that were prosecuted in Port Orchard and Superior Court. And when the Blake decision happened, they weren't being prosecuted anywhere because it was, unconstitutional. So the what Administrator Johnson and what Chief Wolf were saying is that So, you know, we can't make something a felony. We can only make things misdemeanors at the municipal code level. And so it puts that burden for prosecution and incarceration and supervision, and defense services, right? And court services from a state level, you know, a felony level, to a misdemeanor level that's handled in the municipal court. So that's that shift. And so while it was illegal 2 years ago, it wasn't prosecuted in our municipal court 2 years ago.
Okay, that's great, because that's kind of what the concern was. So, but it could be, even if this is just a stopgap to allow law enforcement to have that tool until maybe the state does a correction, because it could be a while, as we learned their big focus is budget and stuff. I don't know, the struggle or the con for me is like, you know, are we just making it tougher to even be unhoused or more illegal to be unhoused? I think too, but I guess technically it's illegal to do this stuff in private too. Well, possession, I guess, it's an odd thing, but but you know, there's concerns of you know, I know businesses, especially in our downtown, with, you know, finding folks, and then folks don't feel safe, family, you know, so it's definitely a trade-off on what we do, but I wouldn't want to come upon it, and I wouldn't know what to do, and then to find out if I called somebody, no one's gonna offer aid or assistance or, you know, prevent it. So anyways, I again kind of new to this conversation, but in general, I feel like it seems like something we should pursue.
I'll take my turn, then we'll do a second round with folks.
Anna hasn't done
Yep. Thank you for correcting me. Yes, Anna. Sorry, I have a little counter while trying to keep track. I didn't look. Thank you.
Thank you. So this is, the use in public was illegal in 2019, that's correct? Okay, so,
So sorry, Attorney Finelli, microphone again. Thank you.
yes. So Eric, Michael, you will possibly remember this study session in 2019 where a young bicycle officer stood up and was talking about his experience in working with people on the street in downtown. Pardon me. He had a brother who had gone down that hole and had been lost. He was still alive. And it was his mission to like go among people and say, I have a chance to bring you to drug court and you have a chance to turn your life around. And some of them, you know, like a miracle would happen and just be one rehab and they were fine. But for most people, it was just like quitting anything. They keep, you know, going back and he'd keep going. You can do it. You can get back on. And he was really thrilled about how many people he had been able to recall to life. This is a little personal for me, obviously. And I think about there's like a house in my district that's surrounded by cars where people are using in their cars. And there's nothing that can be done about it. They could just well expire in their cars because we don't know what's coming down the pike as far as the drugs that are happening. I don't think this should be a 6 months out. I think that it's not that difficult a training. I heard the other points, but it's not that difficult a training to say, if they're using, you can arrest them, you know, or offer them a referral. That's not a complex training. And it's something that most officers working for the Bremerton Police Department are accustomed to, they did it in the past. I'm not really thinking so much about how it'll make downtown prettier or anything like that. I'm thinking it would be really nice if people did not die needlessly. There just is enough of that happening. I truly understand your concerns, Administrator Jennifer. Yeah. But we have to step up here, in my opinion. That's it.
Thank you, Anna. So my thoughts are, I think this is where everyone's at, but I'll just speak for me personally, that I see this, I do not want to pass something that's just penalizing people to penalize them, right? What I thought I heard in the retreat from the chief at the time, and I haven't watched obviously don't attend the public safety briefings, by another case we'll have to hear from him directly, but what I heard at the retreat was that this was a tool to basically have people get help. And so I view it through that lens, that if this is a tool that helps people, it doesn't just penalize them, but it actually gets them into rehab and gets them treatment and gets, lives back on track. That's the reason I would consider it. And I think I heard back then as well that if somebody was arrested on this misdemeanor, Attorney Fennell, correct me on the process, but that person would be referred to the prosecutor, and the prosecutor could first decide whether or not to basically press charges or proceed with prosecution.
Right, there would be we make a decision on what, every person who's charged is reviewed by our office on whether they go forward or not.
Okay. So the prosecutor would have discretion, and assuming, as I think everyone on the current employment is, if the courts were tied up, if there was no drug programs or diversion possible, they could decide not to prosecute. It'd be in their discretion in that case.
Sure, and so keep in mind though that, and this is just a big picture thing, people have to want to engage in therapeutic court. They have to want to engage in treatment and serve. It's one of the differences between this being in a municipal court versus being in superior court is that in superior court, we're looking at, in the past, whenever, before the Blake decision, people could often, depending on their criminal history, be looking at significant sentences that were motivating to do something to avoid being away from your kids that long, or just, being in prison that long. And so, a gross misdemeanor goes up to a year in jail. And this is, I think, contemplated to be a misdemeanor, which means it would cap out at 90 days. It is quite possible that people will not be motivated. And this even really goes for the therapeutic court program. People have to choose to participate, and that because of the lower sentences at the municipal court level, some people just aren't motivated. They would rather be guilty and have a sentence imposed on them and continue about their life and not have to meet with the judge and a prosecutor every day of the week. So I just wanted to let you know,
I
this
appreciate
is
the
not,
process.
you make this illegal. It's not going to be that someone's looking at the 5 and 6, 0 to, the sentence ranges that people were looking at that motivated some of those success stories that you were talking about that made people want to go to drug court.
So, gotcha. So if someone gets charged, prosecutor can decide whether or not to prosecute. If they do, then it goes to the court, then it goes before the judge, and the judge, I'm asking Administrator Johnson, the judge can then decide basically the sentencing.
People have a lot of rights when they get charged with a crime, and the judge and the prosecutor don't get to decide those for them, and so they could choose to plead guilty. Let's say if they got arrested on a Friday, and they're looking at a sentence recommendation of 15 days in jail, something like that, right? They could say, fine. I'm gonna sit this out. I'm gonna get a third off. I'm gonna do 10 days. I'm gonna be out, and I'm not gonna have to go to Bremerton Municipal Court every Tuesday at 10. So those just that, you know, that they can plead guilty. They could say, no, I think this is a stupid law, or I think maybe it's gonna get preempted or something. I'm gonna set this for trial. I'm gonna kind of try to kick it down the road a little bit and see what happens. They could say, so that we're gonna appoint them attorneys. It's not gonna be that they show up to court and where the judge says, you have to go to treatment, you know, the Monday afterwards. They're going to have options that they can exercise, and it might not be the ones that you think that they should.
Well, no, thank you for explaining that. Okay, and then let's say they plead guilty, judge's discretion on sentencing and treatment. And so if there are no treatment, let's say there's no treatment available, the resources aren't there, the judge could then, if they had pled guilty and there was a sentencing, basically say, I'm going to give you the minimum sentence because there are no diversion programs available.
Correct. And
Okay.
I mean, the other thing is too, is, I mean, like Kylie, Ms. Reynolds just said, you know, if it's a 90 day, it's a misdemeanor. So, you know, they get booked in on a Friday night. Okay, Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday, Monday night, Monday, they get heard. That's already 4 days. And if they're getting an offer of 15 days, you know, plus credit, they're out in a few days. It's just things you need to think about. And the fact that, yes, the city attorney's office can have a discretion on whether they're going to file or not, but those people are still getting booked into the jail. So we still need to process them that Monday morning or every day that they're booked. If it's a decline, okay, we're going to release. It's still paperwork, still processes that the court has to do on our end.
Thank you. And I really appreciate just getting an mutual understanding and the facts out there. Last question before we go around to, so currently, do you have the rate on if like public intoxication, if somebody's drinking beer down the street and they get cited, this process is in place for them currently or no?
That's an infraction.
Okay.
So this is a crime. They're processed differently. When you get cited with an infraction, you get handed a piece of paper. Everyone's gotten a ticket. That's the same process for marijuana and.
So this would escalate our current rule on alcohol and marijuana.
Right.
As well. Or
Well, no, it is higher. So they're both all illegal. I mean, or right now, marijuana, those are citable offenses. They are not arrestable crimes. This is an arrestable offense. It would be a misdemeanor.
I'm
Similar to like.
Sorry.
Similar to like.
Restate that again on, is this bringing substances besides alcohol and marijuana to the same level that we currently have alcohol and marijuana?
No, it's
Okay.
one above.
Okay.
So if you think of like an infraction as like the lowest level, then misdemeanor, gross misdemeanor, felony, and you can do A, B, and C felony. But well, not you can't, the legislature. But what I mean is, like right now, alcohol and marijuana use in public is an infraction. This is a misdemeanor, and so on infractions, you don't get booked into the jail. You get issued a piece of paper, and you come to the court, and you can pay it or contest it, or. But for an arrestable offense, they could actually be put under arrest and taken to the jail and booked in, and then they would be seen by the judge the following judicial day or within 2 days.
Thank you for clearing that up. It's very helpful. All right, let's go around to, and I've seen Quinn's, I'm sorry, well, but Denise did speak on this already. So, but her hand is up. It's been up for a while. Sounds like, all right. So Denise, then Quinn.
Just trying to understand the rules. So Kylie, Attorney Fennell, the current pieces of legislation that are being considered at the state level, are those, would those be considered felonies then?
I have not reviewed all of the bills that have been introduced. The current piece of legislation, possession is not a felony. It's a misdemeanor, which is another one of those things where it went from being something that was handled in Superior Court to being something that's handled in a municipal or district court. And so if the legislature, I mean, it's certainly within their capability to do that. I don't think any of the current bills are doing that, at least probably. I mean,
we're not talking really about possession, are we? Aren't we mostly focusing on the active use?
This particular ordinance is focusing on use. The legislature is focusing on possession, which includes use, because that's what the Blake decision dealt with, was the possession of controlled substance. And so that's what they're looking at. It's likely to encompass, or it might not encompass, I guess I should say that. It could be that they just don't address use, right? And then if we had something on the books that made use criminal, then it wouldn't end up being preempted and we could continue on with having it. If they specifically address use, then we might have to come back to this and repeal it. And you saw, I mean, last year we did a whole round of repealing things and modifying things, and you've seen that process work. So I don't know what they're currently looking at, though. I haven't reviewed all the bills.
And then just lastly, I really think Chief Wolf needs to be a part of this conversation, and I value his insight and knowledge of impact and its value as a tool, and I'd really appreciate his participation in the conversation.
Quinn.
Yeah, every time somebody speaks, I get swayed in one direction or the other, to be honest. Councilmember Fry's comments really resonate with me, because at the joint planning session, I also kind of felt like it was percolating up from police, and police was asking for this. During public safety, my read was we may not have the manpower to do this if you pass it. So I'm meeting with Chief Wolf on Friday. I'm having lunch with him, and I'm happy to report back in an informational way of clarifying that. And I'll make sure whatever communication I send out to council is approved by him, so I'm understanding that position correctly. Because Councilmember Fry, I think you're correct, and we really needing to understand that. In addition, I think Councilmember Chamberlain's points are really well taken, and what I keep going back to are like policy papers that I wrote about collateral consequences, right? Like, it's not just this is a touchstone for getting folks help that need help and ensuring that they don't pass, which is really the point of this, right? But we do need to be really thoughtful about collateral consequences. Is this going to affect, ability to get affordable housing, SNAP benefits, things like that? I know that generally it was mostly felonies that the federal government looked at, but I might like maybe a quick, email memo from legal, letting us know, not just what are the effects of being incarcerated, but having that on their record moving forward, so that we can really think about, the balance of all the interests here. But for me personally, once I get those questions answered and a little bit more input from other stakeholders, which I think have been suggested, Councilmember Mockler's statements really, I feel like, swayed me the most, in that, I've dealt with people in my life with addiction, people that were very close to death, and I think about how many times I've seen interaction with the law actually turn into kind of a wake-up moment. And I also think about, and I think I mentioned this at the retreat, the 20 under 40, where I always forget her name, but Sarah Borden said that the first time in her life that she was sober was the time that she was arrested. And 15 days of sobriety, 90 days of sobriety might just be enough for somebody to kind of seek the help that they need. So I'm conflicted. I think it's a lot of nuanced points. but I will report back to council after talking with Chief Wolf on Friday.
I saw Anna's hand up before, so Anna, please go ahead.
So you were making very good points about 15 days or even just 3 months, as opposed to the much longer sentences for felony. But carrying forward from Quinn's words, it's and quoting the young bicycle cop again, bicycle officer again, it's, do you want to go cold turkey, or do you want to go through a process that will be much less painful? And that swayed many people. I hadn't heard Sarah Borden's words, but that is also quite powerful.
Appreciate it. Eric, your hand. Michael. Sorry, Eric.
First recommendation is we have another study session. We don't put this on the agenda this week. There's too many unanswered questions. I would like to hear from Chief Wolf and see if we have his support for this, because it has to go from leadership on down to the police force. My thought was enacting this law gave the police force support in doing their job instead of the frustration, which I understood they were experiencing through the Marysville experience. If Bremerton's unique and they're not experiencing this frustration, okay, I think it's universal, but I want to give him the opportunity, if he's against this, to explain why, so his police officers understand why we're not passing an ordinance similar to Marysville or Kent. So we're not inventing the wheel. If we pass this, we are taking something that 2 municipalities, to the best of our knowledge, already have in place. So some type of testimony or input from those municipalities on their success of their program so far would be beneficial for us in a study session. The other thing is, thankfully, I'm not addicted to drugs, and I've never been addicted to drugs. But I gotta believe if you are in an environment where you can't take drugs for 15 days or up to 90 days, it's gonna be one hell of an experience. But also, maybe then your mind will be clear enough to say, you know what, I need help, versus you're on the street and you're on, on whatever your drug of choice is, and you say, I don't want help. Just want to give these people a chance. Again, I'm willing. I'd like to hear from all aspects, and if we can get the message out for when this does go on the agenda, hopefully we can get testimony from all viewpoints and make our decision from there, an informed decision. And I'm hopeful that from this point forward, council doesn't say, I'm against this, I'm for this. We just all listen and throw our viewpoints out, and we'll wait until we hear all the testimony and make our decision.
All right, Jennifer, then Michael.
Okay, so the public safety hat is off from the committee. I'm just going to speak freely because I just really want you in the next couple weeks. I agree with Councilmember Younger that we should put it off to another study session. I want you to evaluate your biases and think about it, because if you're under some delusion that you think that this is going to save everybody, it's not. I've witnessed, we had a roommate back in 2002 who we saved his life from an overdose, a heroin overdose. When I woke up early, I heard a noise. I went down there and he was dying. And he faced some legal ramifications. But he continued to use. He ended up at a party, falling off a balcony and getting brain damage, okay? And I just need to issue a trigger warning that I'm gonna just mention suicide. I'm gonna mention some other maybe triggering things for just a moment, but I'll try to be brief. my uncle was indigent. He lived in the woods sometimes, and sometimes he was on ranches that offered treatment services and so on. And he had periods of time where he was afforded sobriety, where he was afforded that time. He eventually, even with all the benefits that he had, relapsed and took his life. Time after time, people can have those moments of clarity, that time in sobriety, that time being clean, and they will go out and they will die. But sometimes people will be ready to accept the help. But it does not always come. It rarely comes with legal intervention. People will continue to go out until they are ready to get help. And so I just want you to just look at statistics. I want you to be very mindful about if you are under this premise that criminalizing drug use will help people, or if it really is that you want to criminalize this behavior because it is antisocial and you want to eliminate this behavior from your community for the sake of another group. And you know where I come from. You know, I come from a place of recovery myself, which I'm technically not supposed to be public about, but it's not a secret. And I just want you just don't come without the facts of what legal intervention does to people. We criminalize more people in this country than any other developed country. Why are we giving another tool? Let's make it the same as let's have other options. Let's hear from other people involved. And let's be real with your intention to enact a new law. Is it to eliminate the behavior or is it to try to get people help? That's it. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, Michael.
Actually, Jennifer pretty much just summed up what I was going to say is, and I'm just going to, in my own words, say the last part too, is like, what's the goal here, or what's the problem here that we're trying to fix? Because I kind of started this with one idea, and I've kind of lost it along the way. You know, so there are problems connected to the sort of public use, but are we, you know, is it an intervention point? Is it to clean the streets so that shoppers feel safer? You know, like, so I think we have to be clear on what we're trying to do here. So I appreciate what Jennifer said.
Well, thank you. So I see, yes, Mayor.
This might help, and it's not, Chief needs to be here to speak to answer
Yes.
specific questions, but I am working with Kitsap County, and they do have a program where the first interaction in certain circumstances, unless there's a crime actually being committed, is going to be, it comes from a case management perspective with a resource guide and options and some skills with communicating with folks, you know, who might be homeless or, you know, there's a lot of association with drug use, untreated mental illness, and homelessness. So there's a couple between the county and a nonprofit. I'll share it with you when I get some results. And so this will be.
Yeah, let me say aloud, just any specifics, it's not.
Yeah,
You'll wait to the evening, you can definitely email us anything.
Most of this doesn't work in isolation. You actually have to, I mean, I'm not going to give you advice on this.
Right, please, yeah.
Yeah. So you can consider that there'll be some other programs out there to help folks who are addicted. They don't always accept, as Councilor Chamberlain said the first time, but if there's multiple times where maybe one of them sticks, and that's going to be coming. I don't know if that helps with your decision or not. I'll let you decide.
No, appreciate it. I think I see a couple paths that we should choose from here. Let me just lay them out, and I think I see kind of a consensus, but just to put them all out there, we can put it on general business next week with an action attached, and I'm seeing a bunch of head nods and no's, I expect. Perfect. Keep giving those head nods or not. We could put it on general business for input only, as we've done in the past, to get public input. We could just postpone this to another study session to hear from the chief and from other folks and keep gathering more data. And if we did that, that study session could either be, 2 weeks from now, or it could be after the legislative session to see how things shake out. And the final option I see, and this can go hand in hand with having a later study session, is we could, as a council, decide to send a letter, or any council members can on their own, to the legislature urging them to take, some sort of action as a parallel path. So head nods on another study session in the future at some point. Is that okay? Seeing head nods there. So we'll do that, and then thumbs up on 2 weeks from now to continue the discussion versus wait till after the legislature. Okay, I'm seeing we should keep talking about this. All right. So why don't we postpone this for, not postpone, but we'll put it on study session for 2 weeks from now. See if we can get the chief here, and we can all go and do some more research and see if there's anybody else who wanted the table to get the right data and input. And yeah, Attorney Fennell, please weigh in.
Okay, so I just want to make sure that I'm clear on what my assignment is. I think Quinn wanted me to look into potential collateral consequences that might result because this is a drug conviction. And it sounds like there's an invitation being extended to the police chief to provide the position of the police department on this proposal and attend at the next study session.
Yes.
Can we get some, questions you might ask so the chief and I can work together to touch police position on this? And that's
So I think the council's questions, let's just get it right here, was basically, do you have the staff currently to enforce this if enacted, or would you in the future? Is this a tool that you would use if enacted in order to basically help people get treatment? And council, help me out for any other specific questions, but basically, do you view this as a net benefit to the city, or do you not, from the position of law enforcement? Do you have another question there? Yeah.
How do you plan to fund it?
Okay. I think we got a path forward. All right. Oh, nope. Sorry. Nope. Go ahead.
There was another question, and that is the experience of the 2 municipalities that have already had this in place. What has there been? And I don't mind if our attorney just reaches out for their.
I already have, so I can share that. I thought I said that at the outset. I'm sorry.
Was there actual the statistics and all that?
The 39 referrals for Marysville since it was enacted in December. I talked to the city attorney overall. They seemed fairly pleased. There have been 17, I think, referrals in Kent since September, so they've had longer but fewer. Of the 17, I think the prosecution was moving forward with 12.
Okay.
So
we
you
can
could
get
have
that in.
something in written form.
Yeah.
So we can understand how many went for prosecution, how many went for referral.
Well, the referral is from the police to prosecution.
Okay, no, so I'm talking about then referrals that, okay, they go to the drug court, to the drug versus they go to jail.
I can try to get that information. It might be too soon because the life of a case, like for an out of custody person, they've got 90-day clock at the outset, and it's often extended. And so, like for the people in Marysville, if they appeared, they might not have even had a court appearance yet. And so we're probably not going to get stats from that because theirs I think went into effect in December. So I can try.
So I think, yeah, whatever information you're able to get to put in the study session packet for 2 weeks from now would be fantastic.
Ally, maybe you and you can ask some more questions about what type of formal endorsement did they need from their police chief?
Sure, and I think I was looking on Marysville website. When I was speaking to the city attorney, he mentioned it. I think it was included in their mayor's state of the city address. And I looked online; it's actually not written. It's a video. I haven't watched it. It's sitting here, but there might be more information if anyone wants to check that out. I'll be checking it out. But if you look up like Marysville Mayor State of the City, it's a YouTube link on their website, and I think it's addressed in there.
Okay.
it's completely up to the mayor and the police chief, but I wouldn't mind hearing from a street patrolman that's has feet on the ground. As to what he's seen out there.
No, I think that's a fair point. I obviously up to the mayor to direct the chief and the chief to direct his employees, but I would personally love to hear as well, to hear firsthand experience, cases where something like this may help, cases where it may not. See how prevalent those cases are. Okay, so with that, I think we got clear path forward. We'll have this on study session 2 weeks from now. We'll extend an invite to the police chief and ask if you would be okay allowing a street patrolman to be here as well. I just thank everybody for this is a difficult topic and conversation, and I really appreciate everybody for not getting the facts out there. So with that, propose we do general council business up until the resuming the retreat item, and look at taking a break when we finish that. So with that, we'll move on to general council business, and I'd like to invite Public Safety Committee Vice Chair Jennifer Chamberlain to provide a summary of highlights from the last meeting held on February 2nd.
Well, I feel like this entire study session has been about the public safety meeting, so I'm not going to go over all that y'all already heard. Couple things. So we don't exactly know yet. I guess we're unclear in public safety as to where the funds are for the bathroom. So it was, our line item about a bathroom. Is it in the public works budget? Is it in the general fund? I brought it up, and there was some discussion that maybe it was in public works because it's considered facilities. And so we can't really move on talking about that item there if it's not our department. So that's where we're at with that. So we need to get clarification on that. I'm not sure who can follow up with me on that.
Are you able to reach out to Director Riley to
yes,
answer?
I will do that.
Thank you.
And then
We have a program set up.
$10,000 that was added by council for related to downtown restroom facilities.
Yeah.
Which specific part of city budget is that in?
Oh, you see that? Okay.
so we know which committee to talk about it in, because what council had decided is that we were going to refer it to public safety. But that may not be the most appropriate, or is it the most appropriate?
Well, for us, we were going to bring it to the full council because there wasn't any one committee, and there's some things that we need to run by you, the feedback we're getting from the community. And so,
And you're talking about the homeless community as well, the impacted community, or okay. So I'm going to move on to the next thing, which is public safety. The levy. So next public safety meeting, we're going to talk about the levy of the EMT and police levy, emergency services levy. That's really it. But we need to, when we do talk about it finally at our study session, we'll probably move a little fast because filing week will be coming up right around the corner. So that's it. Thank you.
Gotcha. And that's the next study session 2 weeks from now?
Yes. Yep. Okay. So we'll come on the 22nd study session.
Okay, excellent. Appreciate that briefing. I don't know, I'd like to invite any other council members that attended regional or other committee boards to brief on that committee board.
The Kitsap Transit Board. You've all had a chance to read the mayor's message, and I'm just, Mayor, I've only read it 1.5 times, but I think that you omitted the smallest of facts, which made my heart sing. But basically, there's going to be on-demand Sunday service in Bremerton, in case you haven't had a chance to read the mayor's email. Yay. It will run along trunk route, routed Route 217. So basically, it'll go from the Ferry Building up Warren, up Wheaton, and head for Silverdale. There will also be 4 on-demand vehicles. They weren't specified. 217 was chosen because I immediately went, why not West Bremerton? And the reason that 217 was chosen is that it has very, very heavy demand Monday through Saturday. So I figured probably Sunday too. It's a pretty straightforward thing if you want to talk about it with your constituents. It's going to start in August. It'll have even the on-demand routes will have like, routes. And you just call and go, I want to be on the 10 a.m. route or the 11 a.m. route, so forth and so on. It's phasing in slowly with Bainbridge the last, which was a source of sadness to the counselor from Bainbridge Island as it interfered with equity because the workforce would not be able to get to Bainbridge Island on a Sunday.
All right, thank you for the briefing. Any other regional committees folks have attended that want to brief out on? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to the continued discussion on the joint planning session. How are folks doing? Are we good to maybe go for half an hour and then take a break, or do you want to take one now? But, yes. So what I would goal for tonight, although realizing it is getting close to 8, we've been at it for a couple hours. This long study session was to just continue the ranking where we left off at the retreat. If we're able to get through it quickly and then basically call it a good stop there. If we can get to that ranking, then you should have printouts and email I sent earlier in the week. So what I did was with the ranking that we had from the retreat, we got through four of the kind of big topics. I basically took the ones that you saw the spreadsheet here. So just comparing importance versus the difficulty, the ones that float to the top of high importance, low difficulty, and then in the order that happened to get a draft here. And so no secret sauce. It's literally this third column, one minus the other. And this is just to get us to a cohesive draft that we can stare at. And then in a future study session go, oh, why'd that one end up at the top? I don't like it, move it down here. I don't like that at all, let's strike it and get consensus on items. So it's really just to get a placeholder, complete draft, but not final. So if we're able to finish ranking real quickly tonight, we can basically fill this out as a draft. And then at subsequent study session, dig into the meat and hopefully get something we got finalized. So any questions on that?
Process question, Mr. President. Is this something that council can do? Can we say we want to prioritize X without seeking additional funding for it? For example, currently the Public Works is prioritizing sidewalks to fill the gaps, which is a very sensible thing. Can council, and I'm truly asking because I don't know the answer, can council say we want to prioritize sidewalks, I don't know, around parks and schools? Is this something that council can do?
Our goal with this is to basically get this form filled out, get the words on this paper with our golden priorities that we all appreciate. And once that's finalized, then it's working with the mayor and administration to enact those golden priorities. Unless, can we specifically direct?
I'm so sorry, I forgot.
There has to be budget in place. There has to be.
If, for example, sidewalks are being built to the tune of $6 million a year, let's imagine, can we say we want those $6 million worth of sidewalks to be done near parks and schools? Is that something council can determine? And I'm asking because I don't know the answer.
We can pass ordinances, we can update budget. So if there was an ordinance that's really specified that wanted to be drafted, possibly. Mayor, I don't know if you want to give an answer to this. Sorry, I saw your lights on. But I also don't want to distract from the goal of getting this complete so that we have this to look at the rest of the year when we draft ordinances, when we get to budget season. Does that make sense?
Okay, yes, it makes sense. It's something that occurred to me between the retreat and now,
Gotcha.
and I'm bringing it up as a meta question, I suppose. But can council, for example, say parks should prioritize large, flat, grassy areas?
We can put it in here. It doesn't mean it's going to happen. It will hopefully be a common blueprint for us to move on and to, if it's an action item to pass an ordinance to give direction to the administration. Yeah. So I'd say let's move on. Any questions on just getting this complete for now? same as we did last year. I'm just using a separate method, but we're getting to the same, a similar end result project that council puts out every year. But I propose to go ahead with the rankings and fly through here. If it gets late, an option 2 is if you want to submit stuff remotely, numbers, we can do that. But I would just like to move on, and you got the printouts in front of you. So where we last left off was getting to affordable housing items. And we had a couple, and can I steal a pen from someone? Thank you, Lori. I was gonna do a computer, but since everyone has a printout, I think it's just as easy to do this. Okay, so our first item, in fact, what I'm gonna do, let's go down to the black items, the ones that were newly listed for this year. Start with those, then come back up to the blue ones. So we have an item to identify funding for community organizations to develop more affordable housing. Unless there's any questions on this, again, I'd like to be quick on just rankings, get some numbers. So it's under affordable housing, and the first, not the blue item, but the black color. So just quick ranking of council impact. Yep. And
How does council go about identifying or securing funding? True question.
We might we might ask for an upcoming budget to try and put a line item in there maybe. Gonna just give this a affordable housing. I'm gonna give this a 8 on myself. Anybody else want to flash up some numbers?
8.
788. Okay, 8888, 9, 8, and Denise.
9.
9. Okay, excellent. Thank you. And Mayor, how do you want to handle the administration side? Do you want to give numbers on these? I know there was some hesitancy during retreat. Do you want me to come back to you once council has priorities, or do you want to see if you can give a rough number now? Yeah, identify funding for community organizations to develop more affordable housing. I put this in line with the current, what we just passed the KCR. Yeah. Oh, thank you, microphone. Appreciate it. What I propose is maybe council, let's just get our numbers on the page, and then I'll reach out to the mayor and get numbers back if we can. Okay. So yes, basically it'd be like we did KCR. All right, next one, create incentives for ADUs, cottage, duplex, triple, et cetera, missing middle housing development. This is specifically incentives. So we've allowed it in the code, but this was incentives to help ADUs and duplexes, triplexes, et cetera, get built. So this might be allocating funding towards that effort or reaching out.
It's a 9 for me.
Okay, I'm gonna say 8. I'm sorry, a microphone. Yeah.
Right. It is getting late for all of us.
Yeah.
I think the fact that it's allowed already seems to be an incentive. That's what Director Spencer was saying.
Yeah, specifically like, well, everyone could get $5,000 to start building an ADU. So something like that. It's just very nebulous, but if you have a number. 5. Okay. Michael?
7.
7. Denise?
I'm going to do 5.
Okay.
3.
3. I'm missing Quinn. Did I get yours?
Yeah, I said a 9.
You said 9. Thank you. I did 8. Oh, Jennifer. Okay. I'll give her.
Except Jennifer.
Perfect. I'll leave her the blanks. I can remember to ask her.
I think they're written down for you, President Coughlin.
Oh, okay. Yep. Some of them. Okay. I'll let her do that. Eliminating the 8-year MFTE and scale 12-year MFTE to Bremerton AMI. This we basically already talked about last year, but that's brought forth the proposal. I'm personally going to give it a 0 because I think we've already hashed this one out.
0. It's going to give it a 2.
0.
0, Denise. Michael?
I'll do 0.
Anna?
I think it's a 10, but the possibility is 0.
Good. And Jennifer? Perfect. Identify and increase funding for rental assistance and weatherization.
that a 10.
Then, oh, sorry, yep, next top of next page. Appreciate it. I'm gonna say myself a 9. Oh, yeah, I can. I need to connect to Zoom. You can share it. Oh, yeah, that'd be good. Yeah, sorry. They can't see it. Oh, much appreciated. Thank you. That'd be great. So IT is going to share the PDF that we're all staring at. Excellent. Appreciate that. So I heard a 10. I'm going to give it a 9 myself. Shout out numbers. 9, Jennifer.
9.
And 9. 7. Anna. I'm sorry. Part airplanes can fly.
Oh, yeah, I feel like I need to explain. So historically, this has been $100,000 to $200,000 line item, whereas actually getting people into home ownership has had less emphasis. So I would prefer to put the emphasis on home ownership, get people out of the rental cycle. So given that, I would go 4.
Makes sense. Okay. I'm missing one person. Denise, did you weigh in?
Yes, I did a 9.
Thank you. 10, 9, 4. Oh, there's everybody. Okay. Good. Identify empty city buildings and properties for housing.
10.
10.
I'm going to go with the 4.
Yeah, 4.
3. 3.
Eric? 6.
Council President,
5.
isn't this the same as, sorry, that
Yeah, so
I
now let's
usually
go
look
back to
double-sided.
blue, which
This
is
is
why
the
I
same
did the
thing
blue
as
first.
surplus
Yeah.
city properties.
Yep. So now we've done the black one. Let's go back to the blue ones. So I would strike the old item of identifying surplus property for possible supporting housing development. I think that's the same wording, but this has more action items on the black wording.
Okay, so we're killing identify surplus property.
Yeah, that's my,
Okay.
I'm just looking for head nods.
Yep.
I don't want to move too fast, but
Do we want to replace
basically be replaced by the.
secure additional funding for affordable housing programs? Is that kind of what Eric was saying for identify increased funding for rental?
Oh, sorry, one second. I just want to make sure I got head nods on striking, identifying the surplus property, blue item. Yeah, that overlaps. All right, speak up if you don't like it. Okay, so yeah, secure additional funding for affordable housing programs.
Would that be more of a goal that you're talking about? Should we replace secure additional funding for affordable housing programs instead of?
Aren't the two, the blue and the black, the same?
They're not, because Councilmember Younger mentioned home ownership.
They both say affordable housing.
Right.
Different animal. So this one I have a much higher priority. I have much more support if it's more broad than weatherization, which we've done a tremendous amount on weatherization and rental
Oh, yeah.
assistance.
So I think now we're looking between similar wording, identify funding for community organizations to develop more affordable housing and secure additional funding for affordable housing programs. So
Yes, I would hope that that would be in partnership. I just want to bring us back to what Director Spencer always reminds us, and that is we don't build affordable housing. We, provide money to community-based organizations or others in our community to do that. So I think, combining those in some way would be fine. But I don't know that the city needs to. I think we're doing a good job of securing as much federal funding as we possibly can and state funding for this, but I might be wrong about that. Just a thought. It could be
I feel like the
combined.
black wording is more specific than the blue wording, but they mean the same thing. So
And it's more
I
inclusive.
propose striking the blue wording of secure additional funding because we already have it under community organizations for partnership, but speak up if you want to keep it on and rank it.
I would like to keep it on and rank it
Okay.
because it is more inclusive than the black wording.
Let's rank it real quick, and then when we get to the next study session, we can combine or treat.
10.
Perfect. All right.
Can I suggest a change that might resolve this? Identify funding with community organizations?
Let's
No.
let's
Okay, carry
postpone
on,
the tweaking
carry on.
and just we'll just keep
Okay.
moving. All
So
right.
secure.
So secure additional funding for affordable housing programs. I'm gonna give that a 9. I'm gonna give it an 8, same as I gave the other item. We'll shake it out next study session. 8. Michael. 7. Eric.
I'm going to go low because of my previous stated point, so I'm going to go 5
Correct. Makes sense. Okay.
because it's not in collaboration.
Explore feasibility of implementing findings of March 2020 Affordable Housing Recommendations Report. So again, this one was wording from last year. That will go down to I'm gonna get under difficulty. I'm gonna give this a 8, fairly high priority. Of seems like it'd be good to get an update on this report and what we can do.
I'll go with an 8.
Also on team 8.
8.
8.
Team 8.
8. Michael, yeah.
So I would tend to score this low because I would assume the administration has this report and is working on it. Like, so it seems weird to like prioritize everything that's happened. Like, we talked about this a little bit.
Sure.
You know, so I tend to think, oh, you know, weatherization, man, that's going great. You know, we're always looking for stuff. So I guess I'm looking for things that really stand out.
So I'd say we had this on our list from last year.
Yep.
My take is if it's in the works and it's low difficulty, keep it on our list. We're keeping our eye on it, and if it gets done, we can check it off. Oh, IT. Yeah, sorry, IT. Okay. Yeah. Head Andrea.
Can you hear me? I'm just doing mic check real quick.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, I was just going to say there's a lot of stuff in the 2020 Affordable Housing Recommendations Report that you've already done, and we will integrate in the comp plan update and as part of all the stuff that we're having to do under the new State House Bill 1220, which I think Councilmember Goodnow heard a lot yesterday from the state, that we're doing work through KRCC. So there's stuff that we're doing. So I'm not sure that you need to call it out specifically from this report as its own goal, because there's so many other initiatives that you're doing, and it's real hard to kind of pick that as one particular goal.
Fair enough. Let's postpone kind of those comments to next session, or we can just strike things in Greek language. So, but much appreciated, Director. All right, 2 more numbers. Let's keep moving. We'll get a draft and iterate after that.
So my comment on this is, before I can give you a number, this was right when COVID started. I don't recall us having a study session. We could have, like, kind of in a fog during that period. Did we actually sit down and digest this thing page by page and have a study session? Or was this just the administration saying, this is part of the toolkit, here's something we can pass? If we didn't, then I suggest it's very important. It is so frustrating to see money spent on these darn studies, not actually looking at them and thoroughly pulling them apart and saying, okay, because we set policy. It's not the administration saying, hey, we like this, and that's great. I think Andrea does a great job. I'm not going down that
I
road.
appreciate it, but let's keep up on the ranking. Yeah.
Fine, 10.
So 10, perfect. All right. Agreed. Michael.
Which one are we on?
March 2020 Affordable Housing.
Oh yeah,
Yep.
yeah. 7.
7. Okay, sounds good. Identify new partnerships and programs for greatest impact.
Strike it.
I'm fine striking this one because I think it's covered by the other ones we've ranked. What if
It's not a very direct, measurable goal.
Okay, seeing no objection, we'll strike that one for consideration. And that brings us to equity and government. We're actually, the number we've done, we're almost halfway.
8.
Equity in government, maximize affordability. Well, actually, let's start with the black ones again. So let's go bottom to top. Equity in government, hire a consultant to help define roles and responsibilities of the DEI position. We talked about this a bit during the retreat in a deep dive.
9.
9.
Very 9. So again, specifically hiring a consultant to help define roles and responsibilities.
9, 9,
Of course, you are a council member.
Team 9, Team 9.
Denise, Michael, 9. Eric,
10.
10. All right. 10 as well. All right. I did a 10. I'm not even sure. We had pretty clear consensus on this, but drafting an ordinance to create a permanent rates equity commission.
10.
You had a 10. I'm going to say 10. That is-
10, 10.
No can of worms. Give me a number. I'm saying 10 because we had I heard from council. Okay, perfect.
10.
I'm going to propose striking the define the functions, power, and duties of the DI position if we just
Hire a
heavy
consultant
ranks
to
the
do
bottom
that.
one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
Or
we're gonna hire a consultant to define what the DEI position is without having input from council, which is one of our council
It literally
powers.
says hire a consultant.
Oh, to help define. One of our powers on council is to define new hires. So I want to honor the feedback of REACT, which is
Fair enough.
that,
so I'm going to propose.
okay.
Help. Yeah. Let me say to help. Yes.
Consultant to help
define.
define.
All right. So I'll do that and let me work with you since this is just a focusing tool. We don't have,
Okay, I see what
Um,
you did.
Let me work with you. So I'll say to help council define roles and responsibilities. And I'm going to strike that other one because it's redundant. But we can keep tweaking the language on this, especially.
Should we revote since we changed the words? Okay.
No, it's clear that's council.
Eric gives
council
it
had
an
clear direction
11.
there. So yeah, these ones are kind of, this is redundant with what we discussed at the retreat. The one from last year, maximize affordability by using equity and racial justice lens. If we want to keep that language in there.
That's a huh? I don't know what that means.
It is
Strike
a
that.
little more nebulous, but maybe. That was the exact wording in last year's published goals, priorities.
I can't remember when we drafted the council goals and priorities, what the discussion was around that.
Yeah, I'm putting that one on Michael.
The blue one's for the new one.
No, blue was old.
The
Blue was last year.
Can we just move to strike?
Oh, I think that's it. I
Right.
think it might have been under something like affordable housing.
It was under something else.
And I might have.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because-
So I'm cool with striking it if we're working on something different right now. And I feel like a DEI, that's
Okay.
better, yeah.
All right, we'll strike that and we can always, if we're missing something later on, we can add it in. All right, 2 more categories. Environmental stewardship. Again, let's start bottom to top. Create a plan for establishing Sylvan Park, not Slytherin Park, Sylvan Park and the YMCA